Hi, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Scenes Phases of Grant Making. My name is Mary Bell Ware, and I'm a director in the program and grants team here at the New Hanover Community Endowment. This is a webinar series. It's going to be short, conversational, and it is intended to demystify the evolving grant making process here at the endowment. The webinars will address three phases of grant making. This will be the longest webinar, the initial or preparation phase of grant making, the implementation phase, and the post-implementation phase of grant making. Let's talk a little bit about the grant characteristics of the three types of grants you might see coming out of the endowment. The first is our community grants program. It's a semi-annual program, very defined in terms of how much money can get awarded through that program. There's a defined application process. You will see those announced a couple of times a year. The other two grants you will see, types of grants you will see coming through the endowment are responsive grants and proactive or change-making grants. Those are two basic buckets I'm going to spend time talking about today. So the responsive grants are going to the ideas are going to flow into the endowment from the community. They'll be submitted in response to an emerging opportunity or problem like a funding challenge or emerging community need or pattern, opportunities to pilot an evidence-informed practice, or addressing a trend, or maybe even maximizing a funding opportunity. Even though those are responsive, we would anticipate having a lot of planning work together prior to anything like that being submitted to the endowment. And I'll talk about that more and you'll see why in the next slide. The other type of grant you might see is a proactive or change-making grant. Those are grants that will be initiated by the endowment to advance our mission and achieve our bold goals set by the board. Those can also be found on the website. They're things like having the best education system in the state, having the safest community in the state, having a healthy community, having economic opportunities for everyone. So to learn more about those, please take a look at our website. These grants may arise to address barriers to achieving the strategic objectives and bold goals set by our board. We would expect those to be evidence-based. They might involve lots of different partners to get at a solution, might include a bunch of entities with distinct roles in the solution, and might require an extended implementation period. Let's talk about the work that goes into those last two buckets of grants that I described. So in thinking about the endowment's process, grants are cultivated by network officers and directors like me. So generally speaking, someone would reach out to us. If it's a responsive grant, you would reach out to us by email, through our website, or call us on the phone. And if it is a proactive grant, you might see a request for proposal or a request for information coming from the endowment into the community. Either way, before a grant is submitted to our programs and grants committee of our board or our board, there is a ton of work that we do together to make sure it's the right ask at the right time, aligned with the right strategy. So even before the recommendation memo to our grants committee and subsequently our board, here's the kind of work that goes into moving a grant through the endowment's process. First, we're going to get the data. We're going to define our goal. What are the outcomes? And what are the data that we think we need to get to our outcomes? What is the problem that we're trying to solve? And what is our data telling us about a best practice? That's the second part. Explore possible solutions. Are there already evidence-based or promising programs out in this wide world that have addressed the issues in similar communities that might work here with some adaptation or even without adaptation? What does that look like? And so our third step is thinking about what are our possible solutions, who might help us, what are our natural partners? And generally speaking, when we talk about partners here at the endowment, those are the individuals that we can either fund or leverage to get to the solution. We can fund right now nonprofits, governmental entities, and community organizations that fit in certain IRS guidelines. And that's a different video. So we're going to look at who can help us. We're also going to say who might not help us. What might hold us up? Who might we need to bring into the fold that we haven't thought of? What are our partners that might surprise us here? Who's being overlooked? And then we need to test our theories with stakeholders. So if we settled on a possible solution, we talk to our stakeholders. Do you think this will work? Do you think you can help with this? Who else could help with this that we're not thinking about? Then we want to engage with all the potential partners that can help us get to our goals, our bold goals that are set by our board, the goals of this program. Are our partners, do they have mission alignment with this project? What we don't want to do is engage a partner and ask them to go well beyond their mission, well beyond their scope, and stretch themselves in ways that they're not prepared yet to be stretched. Doesn't mean they can't participate, doesn't mean they're not an important part of the process, but we really want to know who's mission aligned with this project. And then we also want to assess the capacity of our partners to actually execute the project. Now, there are tools for capacity assessment for nonprofits. There's one from the Ford Foundation, one from Northwestern University. Those resources will be at the end of this video. I hope you access them. They're wonderful. If people don't have the capacity to do something, does that mean they're out from a grant perspective? Not at all. That is not what that means at all. What that might mean is that they need funding to increase their capacity to achieve the goals of the grant. We also want to cross-reference people's capabilities and collaborations to see if we can elevate those to achieve the goals of the grant, program, or project. Also want to say that we understand that collaboration costs money, time, and energy. And so that should be built into any grant request. We want the right request to get to the right goal. We want to identify any potential challenges and figure out how we can mitigate them. And we want to deconflict our funding sources. And you might say, why do you want to do that? Well, what we want to do is leverage every potential funding source to get to this goal that we're working towards together. So we want to deconflict those funding sources and maximize all available funding sources to bring to solve our problem. We then want to construct our project plan and continue solicitation of input from our partners, provide asks for specific outcomes, mitigate any implementation challenges, set a realistic budget and timeline because we want this grant to be successful so that we can help get to those bold strategic goals, and assist our partners in constructing applications. That does not mean that we have the ability to write grant applications for folks, but we can help folks frame things in the way that we just talked about so that we can achieve success in our grant process and also through the life cycle of the project. We then are going to solidify our recommendations and again, take them to our grants committee and our board for their consideration. That is all the work that goes into grant making, even before our board gets a look at the grants. So we are really looking forward to the opportunity to continue to work with you all to develop those exciting projects and programs that help us meet our strategies and get to those bold goals. And I hope you join me for the next step, which is the science and art of implementation. Thank you for all that you do to help our communities be healthy and resilient. Here are the resources I talked about capacity assessment. I hope you use them, and I'll see you on the next webinar.